All right, rock and roll. Welcome to the Scorched Earth podcast for Thursday, February 13th. Oh, one more day. One more day till Valentine's Day. Guys, you better be getting ready. Girls, you better be getting ready. Everybody better be getting ready. Boy, what a big holiday that is. You know, in the beginning, I never really understood when I was in the dating world, when I was young, how big Valentine's Day was. Maybe it wasn't as big back then. Dinosaurs roamed the earth back then, but man, you go into Target or you go into any of these other establishments and literally it is a sea of red. Hearts everywhere, The only place there isn't a heart, the Trump administration. All right, if you could, please hit the like and subscribe button. Please leave your comments. I always like to know what you're thinking. And away we go. So, yesterday, the Republicans finally got a budget out of committee. Basically what happens is you have committees for different departments, for different aspects of the government, and we have a budget committee. And the party that controls Congress has the majority of people on that committee, which makes sense, right? If you win, to the victor goes the spoils. You should be able to institute your agenda. And I'm not going to get into all the boring nuances of what committee work is and all this and that. But they came out with what happens is you go into the committee, they hash out the budget. Now, you got to remember, we've got over a $6 trillion budget. There is a ton and a ton and a ton of stuff in there, right? Literally, when they print it out, that thing is just huge. Okay, now I'm a guy, and when I say that huge, that's like 10 inches. Okay, that's a guy thing. No, it is an incredibly complex process to get through a budget. There's literally tens of thousands of different items that have to be appropriated and funded and decided upon if they're going to continue. So the Republicans have all the levers of government, right? They got the Congress, they got the Senate, they got the presidency, and they got the Supreme Court. And they got a preliminary budget out of committee. Now it goes to the floor and everybody can start fighting. Now remember, because the Republicans have a 4-seat majority, but 2 of the members of the House went into government positions with the Trump administration. So those seats are empty until they can run a new election. So they have a 2-seat majority, razor thin. The thing is, you have anywhere, depending on the day of the week, you have anywhere between 6 and 12 Republicans who are fiscal hawks. And they literally want the government to be on like $10, right? They don't want the government to do anything. We got Comers. We got a couple other of these winners that I'm going to talk about later. But the budget that came out has $1.5 trillion in cuts over 10 years. Now, we have a deficit. Now, I'm not saying cutting government is a bad thing necessarily. I do think it's a bad thing when it affects people's lives and their ability to live and hey, just tough it out, because that's not everybody's journey and everybody's situation, right? I think we should be a nation of empathy, but hey, we're in the other part, right? So they've been working on this for 3 months. We're going to get it to the floor, and they got $1.5 trillion. The fiscal hawks in the Republican wing want more. They're looking for $2, $3, $4 trillion in cuts. And part of them is saying, I understand where this is coming from their perspective of this might be our last chance to really cut back on government. A $30 trillion deficit, we've got to do something. Now, for all you little Republicans out there, let's remember the last president to actually balance the budget was a Democrat. The last president to actually live within his budget for a year, I'm not saying balance the budget, but the budget he had for a year was Barack Obama in 2013. Okay? So At the end of the day, the Republicans have all the levers like they did in 2000, assorted other years, 2016, and they still haven't come close to balancing the budget for just 1 year. Let's see if they can do that. That little sleight of hand. What we have coming, though, is... let's go in, first of all, to what some of the requirements they want out of this bill that's peeking its head out of committee. They want work requirements for Medicaid. You know where I stand on universal health care. Everybody deserves it. Every kid does. Every adult, every senior deserves it. We live in the richest country in the world. We can afford it. We don't need another B-2 bomber. We don't need another aircraft carrier. F you and F you and F you. Okay? But now, people who are getting government assistance for their medical needs are told, hey, you need to work. Right? First of all, I know people who, as you get older in life, come up with medical situations where they're not able to work. Look, they're walking, and here's the thing. There is so many people who think because you walk, because you talk, because you breathe, you can work. And all I've got to say is right there to you. Okay, you don't know what their situation is. You don't know what pain is. I have a very dear friend, and she, on the outside, is looks incredibly healthy, right? Petite, she's active, she walks, she does all this stuff. This girl is in pain every day, from assorted things that came on, and she lived a healthy life, right? And for some reason, a cell divided the wrong way, or something happened with the mitochondria, or something happened in her body, and she is dealing with GI issues, other issues all the time. And every time I see her, she is a warrior on a warrior, right? She doesn't really talk about it, but I can just see sometimes how uncomfortable or discomfortable. Well, her family and friends all tell her, well, you should be able to work because you look healthy. That's such BS. I really want to use other words, but super producer Stacy says I got to keep it clean for first 10 minutes, right? Let me tell you, I wish this isn't the back end because I'd really go off. Everybody's journey is their own. And until you are literally living in their body, you don't know what pain they have. You cannot explain pain to somebody. My threshold for pain, obviously, is probably low. I'm a guy, right? Women can handle more pain than guys. But if I'm in pain, for me, if it's an 8, maybe for a lady it's a 4 or a 3, whatever. At the end of the day, if it's enough where I can't function in a clear headspace or state of mind, I can't work. Well, how do you qualify that? Well, the Republicans are going to do it because they say you got to be able to work to be able to get Medicaid. Medicaid, helping young children, helping people who are unemployed, things like that. Yeah, let's get them off the dole, right? Because God forbid. Here's the winner of the day. Representative Eric Burleson of Missouri called the cuts pathetic. Yeah, he says 1.5 trillion is pathetic, and said at least 6 other Republicans are against the bill that's coming out of committee. That's good. Good. Let's see the cannibals fight among themselves. I'm digging it. Like I said, they got a 2-seat majority. So here we come. Spoiler alert. Dun, dun, dun. In comes Darth Vader. That's the Democrats, right? As far as I'm concerned, the Democrats would say, kiss my ball sack. Okay, straight out, whatever you want to say, because they are running the Congress, the Senate, the presidency. I know it's a common theme for me, right? I sound like the broken record, but at the end of the day, you don't need us. Go ahead, run the government. What they are coming up to on March 15th is a debt ceiling. Now, let me explain what a debt ceiling is. I'm sure you all know it, and actually you probably know it better than I do, but I got to fill some time here, okay? And I hope maybe I can inform 1 or 2 people. So a debt ceiling is, let's just say hypothetically, you have $6 trillion budget for the year. But through taxes and other assorted entities that bring money into the government, you only make $5 trillion. So what you have to do, the rule is you can only spend what you have, right? It's like me, when I go out, I go out to the streets, I can only spend what I got in my pocket, right? So what happens is they have to lift that debt ceiling. They have to pass an authorization for, let's just say on that case, $1 trillion that the government can go outside its normal means of accruing revenue and start selling bonds, treasury bills, things like that to people, other governments that they invest and they expect a return on their money of 6-8%, whatever it is, whatever a T-bill is. I think a T-bill right now is 4%, but it is considered the safest investment in the world, right? China buys an incredible amount of our T-bills every month because we deficit spend every month. Now, March 15th is going to come, and they're going to need the Democrats' help to raise the debt ceiling, okay? Because they're not going to bring in a $5 trillion budget on $5 trillion in revenue. No, they're talking over, remember this, they're talking $1.5 trillion over 10 years. That's $150 billion a year. And I'm not saying some of that isn't legitimate. It might be. But let's not forget this little wonderful fact that they leave out. No cuts to the budget, or to the defense budget. Nothing. Yeah. Sure, there's no blood in that pig, right? Yeah. What did Ozzy Osbourne say about the war pigs? And the Democrats need to put the toe in the sand here, line in the sand, and say, you know what? Nah, we'll just go for the government shutdown. The Democrats are so fickle. They are, I can't stand the Republicans, but one thing I can deal with, what I really admire, is they got that FU on FU thing of, this is the line, go ahead, we'll shut the government down. The Democrats have so many effing focus groups and things like that, they think every issue is the end of the world. Oh, we're not going to go out on an issue unless it's really popular. You know what? Be like AOC. Be like Bernie. Say things because they're the right thing. Not because you got some political poll that says it's a 62% majority. F you. Say the things because they're the right thing to say. Look at Bernie Sanders. For this generation, for our side, he's our Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan ran for president in 76 and didn't get elected. Let's take Reagan out of it. Let's go to Barry Goldwater. He ran in 60 and 64, excuse me. And he was a conservative on a conservative. We hadn't seen that. Johnson was starting into the Great Society and expanding voter rights. He did Medicare. He did a lot of incredibly great things. So really, Johnson is a truly underrated president. And Goldwater got crushed. He just got crushed, right? But he set forward the thought that this could really happen, that conservatism could win. And then we see 16 years later, Reagan is elected president with a huge sweep of government, and he had an 8-year run, and the government turned, right? Bernie Sanders is, I'm not going to call him a socialist because everybody wants to put a negative stink on it, but he has taken a lot of that negative connotations off that term, and he has brought it down to, I just want to help people. I'm tired of, we're not going to help people. In a government where we don't touch the defense budget, where it keeps going up, where we give aid to killers like Syria and Egypt and these guys and Israel. Yeah, Israel. I just said it. Yeah. Why can't we help the people here in America? The Republicans always say they want to help the people in America, but, until it comes time for the budget, then everything's got to get cut. We're cutting all these government agencies, the USAID, which is one of the greatest humanitarian and foreign relations programs we have. Just keep going, right? I think we need to draw the line in the sand, and literally when March 15th coming, only a month away, Don't give them any votes. Just let these 6-8 Republicans who don't want to vote for the budget. Okay, good. And I don't want to hear we're going to get back considerations from the Republicans. And I saw Hakeem Jeffries the other day, and I hope this dude grows up, because he's talking about, well, what we're going to get back is, he's tentatively talking. They haven't went into formal negotiations, but they are negotiating behind the scenes. Trust me on this one. Is, well, we're gonna get them to agree to when we do fund something, they can't cut the program afterwards. You know what, dude? We already got that. That already exists. It's called the law. I still wonder how Trump was able to stop the law on TikTok had to shut down. I mean, like, I just put out an order and a law just got stopped that was bipartisanly passed. Okay, let's move off. I don't want to digress. Hakeem Jeffries just needs to go, F you. Good luck. No votes. No votes. I don't care. We're going to shut the government down. You know what? They are so worried about getting back to power. Let me tell you something. 2026, we are going to pick up 40 seats in the House. We're going to pick up 10 seats in the Senate. You mark my words. It's coming. This guy is so unpopular. This guy puts his foot in his mouth every effing day. He will. Literally, that's why we took over everything in 2020. No, besides the fact he ignored the COVID, thing. But, in our back pocket, we got HSN1, the bird flu. And that's why the egg prices keep going up. Yeah, we'll be doing a little price update next week. Don't you fret. All right. Other assorted things in the news. Trump talked to Putin. This seems to be the first call he's made as president. Said negotiations to end the Ukraine war will begin immediately. I don't know what happened to I was going to solve the war in 24 hours when I got into office, but after holding lengthy and highly productive telephone call with Putin yesterday. For me, when Trump calls something a highly productive phone call, either he's scamming somebody out of money or he didn't fall asleep. You pick which one. I have a funny feeling the Ukrainians are going to get fleeced here. Then Trump came out on Truth Social. We agreed to work together. We have also agreed to have our respective teams start negotiations immediately between him and Putin. And we will begin by calling President Zelensky of Ukraine to inform him of this conversation. Can you imagine Zelensky just sitting there going, my country got invaded. We're getting attacked. We're trying to hold the line. And these two guys are negotiating what they're going to do, how they're going to cut us up. And make no mistake, Trump is talking about he wants to get minerals in eastern Ukraine, which are highly valuable, under the control of the United States. And Russia wants to keep different areas that they've conquered, Donetsk region, other regions like that. And Ukraine is going to basically be like Crimea, like, oh, we're just going to slice and dice it, whatever it is. Doesn't democracy mean anything? Doesn't that whole thing, isn't that why we support Israel? Because it's a democracy in the Middle East? Oh, yeah. Well, the democracy right there next to Russia, that one don't really matter. Because, we gotta, perform whatever on Vladimir Putin. They are terrible. He's a war criminal. He's just a terrible human being, and Russia ain't no big thing. I'm telling you that we got street gangs in LA that could beat him in 3 days. They're a joke. They are a joke on a joke. And mark my words, 5 years from now, that place is going to be broken on broken, and it's all going to be because of what Biden did. That's another story for another day. I don't want to go down too far in the weeds. Pig Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, said Ukraine is not going to be able to join NATO. Okay. So the biggest bloc of democracies in the world that are united in a central defense of Europe, he says that they can't join because that's a problem for Russia. Oh, wow. The country that just invaded Ukraine. We don't want a united defense against them. Yeah, that makes sense. You know what? We're going to go to a little lighter side of the news right now. I saw this and I kind of chuckled. There was a petition started on crowdfundme. I didn't know there was something past GoFundMe, but please excuse my ignorance. For Denmark to buy California. It has already 200,000 signatures, and I got to tell you, I'm all in, man. I'm all in. I love the Danish. Let's go, man. They make great little snacks in the morning. The Danish, man, right? The petition reads, have you ever looked at a map and thought, you know what Denmark needs? More sunshine, palm trees, and roller skates. Well, we have the ability to make that happen. You know what I say? California, we're up for sale, man. Let's get Denmark to be our pimp. We could be the hoe. I'm down with it, man. They got universal health care. Let's go with it. Really, what are we losing? Wonder how that would work if California really, really wanted to secede. Oh, my gosh. Oh, what a day that would be. All right, back to reality. U.S. inflation heats up this month. It's up over 3%. First time that's happened since last June. Eggs, what a surprise. Here we go back to our buddy the egg. Rise is the fastest rate in 10 years. It went up 15.2% in January. Maybe because the chickens don't want to mate or, have eggs because they hate Trump so much. I would like that, but it probably has a little more to do with the bird flu. This is the biggest increase since 2015, which I forgot all about this, was due to the highly pathogenic avian influenza outbreak. Seems like we have a lot of outbreaks. You know what's funny, though? The bird flu of 2012, this outbreak in 2015, when the Democrats are in control, it seems like we get it under control. Huh. How weird, huh? Joe Biden got the vaccinations out, got the death rate under, 15,000 a year, Trump's rate was only 750,000 a year, no difference, right? Maybe it's herd immunity. Insert your own laugh track there, please. Grocery prices also went up 0.5% in January, the highest since 2022. Maybe something else we can blame Biden for on the way out, but hey, he wasn't the boss. That's the other guy. The guy who was going to bring down prices on day one. Haven't heard a lot about that since then. Also in the news, French President Macron, love this guy, leader of France. He says the right answer for Gaza is not a real estate option. He did an extensive interview with CNN yesterday, and the guy was just point on. He goes, you cannot say to 2 million people, okay, now guess what? You have to move. Here's your 60-day eviction notice. It just doesn't work. That's what ethnic cleansing is. These people have lived there. This is their home. It's like somebody coming into a community in Alabama and going, hey, you know what? You got to move to Nebraska. Well, what are you telling me? This is where I've been. That's where my family is. This is where all my friends are. Yeah. We've already been through the Gaza thing. And he keeps doubling down on it. He was yesterday, 2 days ago in the White House with Jordan's King Abdullah. And, Abdullah looks like he's in a hostage video. Like, oh my God, I can't believe this guy's saying stuff. But the optics are when he's saying this crazy stuff and there's an Arab leader there, it kind of looks like, oh yeah, the guy's kind of signing off on it, which I really don't think is what he's doing. But, hey. Always remember, hydrate up. Yesterday, in front of Congress, Jerome Powell, the head of the Fed, and he truly is the most powerful person in the economic world. The Fed Reserve sets interest rates. It sets mortgage bond rates. It sets, it literally... It raises them or lowers them according to how they see the economy. And he is an independent lever of the White House. And that's a good thing. Turkey, a couple of years ago under Erdogan, tried to corrupt it and basically have their own handpicked guy run the economics. And what the problem with that is they're only looking to pump the car up, to pump it up, during their term. They don't care about the long term. And the reason you need an independent gentleman like Federal Reserve Powell is because, and he has a term till 2027, he has repeatedly said he will not step down, that he has to look at the next 10 years. He can't just, Trump needs to get a couple little wins here, and then the next guy comes in, kind of like Barack Obama did after George Bush, right? The economy literally was on the brink of depression. And Barack Obama was literally like putting every finger in the hole in the dike. I mean, and even then, it was incredibly terrible. Just terrible. And the guy did everything right, I think, or a lot of things right. I will say that I wish that Robert Reich, who is just a great man, would have got his way and punished the banks for the malfeasance they did, but that's another episode for another day. But the reason I'm bringing up Chairman Powell is because he said something very interesting. And I really wish this would get a little more daylight. It's crazy. You got to come to scorched earth to get daylight. He said to Congress, if you fast forward 10 to 15 years, there are going to be regions of the country where you cannot get a mortgage. Now, most people are going to think, well, why is that? Well, how does that work? Mortgage is a mortgage. The problem is insurers have been canceling home insurance across the country as climate change exacerbates these natural disasters, right? We just saw State Farm canceled thousands of homeowners' policies in the months before the Pacific Palisades fire, the devastating one in Los Angeles just last month, right? So at the end of the day, you can get a mortgage. That's all great. But if you can't insure the house because you have to insure the house to keep the mortgage, you got a problem. Florida, which has huge hurricane issues, the only insurance that they can get, the people there, is a state fund. So what's going to happen when Colorado burns up, or, we have tornadoes, we have hurricanes that hit North Carolina, stuff like that, and people can't get home insurance? What do climate change is real. That fire in Los Angeles last month was apocalyptic, okay? It was a fire like we haven't seen in 100 years. They built the houses too close together. I'm not going to argue that. But the bigger problem is the ground has been suffering from an incredible drought the last 12 years. There is no moisture in the soil. Everything is just fuel for a fire. I live in one of those areas. I live in the mountains. I'm telling you, when summer comes, when there's a fire, when there's a spark, we all hold our breath because it's just a matter of time till we get wiped out. And I'm living at a days in, Boom. All right. And finally, we're going to circle back to the story from yesterday about Elon Musk in the Oval Office. He brought his kid there. Elon Musk really does look like he got hit by a truck in the face. There's something wrong with that dude. Come to think of it, he looks like one of those genetically engineered things. They do in the lab, like species, they're going to make this thing. And then all of a sudden, they forget a part, and then it just doesn't look normal. You're like, ugh, what's up there? It's like you look at somebody and they're really hot, and then there's one thing off, and you go, what the heck is that? Oh, they got a nose. They got a nose the size of Rhode Island or whatever. Look, I just even hearing that guy breathe. That guy makes me angry. So he laughs off the criticism that he is trying to engineer a coup and a takeover of the government. Now, his response is, I'm incredibly transparent because I put everything on X, the thing he owns. And is he really? How do we know? How do we know if he is actually what he's actually doing? There is literally a dark cloud around this quote unquote cutting government. How do we know? We have no clue. And that's why we elect public officials, so we can have somebody accountable. Who is he accountable to? We all know what happens when this goes sideways, and it will go sideways. Trump's going to go, I didn't know what he was doing. I didn't have a clue. My bad. And then he's going to move on to the next natural disaster that he creates each and every day. All right. Elon Musk. I wish they would waterboard that dude. I really do. I mean, waterboard him, testicle torture, whatever, man. I don't know. Well, I don't know if you could really torture him. I'm sure when him and Trump get together for a little playtime, thongs in hand, they're just whatever, pegging. No doubt those two are doing that outside the Oval Office. All right. If you could, please hit the like and subscribe button. I love you all, and I will talk to you tomorrow.